You know, for once they almost had an interesting intro. They started by having our new storyteller read a quote from Alice in Wonderland, and my immediate thought went to possible concept hint. I know it's unlikely that a group with the Black Label Associations will have a developed concept or even an interesting one. But if Wake 1 can have one influence over their creative direction, I do so deeply hope they'll push them away from the YG brand of girl crush and give them an interesting concept. I saw some speculation early on that the group might be called Newtopia, shout out to L'Assemble, and that could fit with an Alice in Wonderland theme, down the rabbit hole and everything. But the likelihood of this having any kind of payout is in the negatives. The intro reveals that Zero Base 1's Sung Hanbin is the new storyteller, but all I can think about is that one Keplian who said it should have been Chaehan and how much Mnet could have done with that with regards to Fuko. But perhaps part 2 will focus less on the trainees' past survivals. Let's find out! They spent almost 4 minutes on Hanbin introducing part 2 and revealed that they even ranked the beds. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not personally a huge fan of switching beds every week. I also don't really get that as a motivating factor. It should be something more like the top 6 get a new care package with every rank change. The closer we get to the finale, the better the packs become. But anyways, 3 missions, 3 eliminations, benefits by rank, you guys know the deal. It's time to start the episode. Actually, it's not quite yet. I have some news. Since I will be on vacation overseas from the 20th to the 4th, I'm going to be behind again and probably won't post anything during that time. It's upsetting because I just finally managed to catch up to the show, but I booked this vacation in January. However, if you guys are interested, I might try to create kind of a vlog or upload travel videos on Shorts/TikTok or both. Okay, episode 8 time. They finally revealed that the final group will have 6 members. I don't have a great feeling about this. The likelihood of an extra producer pick is slim to none, and I'm not really excited for the possibility of 5 voted members, 1 producer pick. We start the real episode with a reveal of the producers' ranks for the entirety of part 1. They are as follows. In rank number 1, we have Jung Sebi. Rank number 2 is Yu Sarang. Fuko is their 3rd place. Shockingly, in 4th is Chie Jung-eun. Mai takes 5th place, Coco rises to 6th place, while Bang Jimin drops from 1st to 7th. In rank number 8 is Yoon Ji-yoon, followed by Kim Soo-jung in rank 9, Nam Yoo-ju takes 10th with Son Ji-won in 11th, and Kim Gyuri undeservedly in 12th. I really don't understand the judges' standards. Sure, some girls shuffled a few ranks, but Jimin dropping 6 ranks after 1 performance might be more understandable had she been in 4th to 6th place. But from 1st to 7th, it seems far more like it was for narrative reasons than for her actual performance. Her performance wasn't that bad. The mentors had just made up some expectations in their head and then got disappointed when Jimin didn't know she was supposed to meet them. I am also of the very strong opinion that the show producers and editors need to go back to elementary school and learn how to structure a story. Why would you do the big storyteller reveal at the beginning of the episode for the audience and then repeat it early in the episode for the contestants? This is far more impactful if we find out at the same time as the girls, narratively speaking. Imagine for a second that he had just been a disembodied voice reading those intro lines from Alice in Wonderland. We cut to the girls re-entering Island after the eliminations and get a few more emotional moments. Me personally, I just want to see Ji-yoon and Fuko hugging Cutie again. We can have the girls talk a bit about their expectations for part 2. It could be sentimental, focused on themselves, harsh and determined. A lot of ways we can take this, and that can set the tone for part 2. Since Nasuri is evil now, by the way, Nasuri is evil now, the determined and harsh route would probably be best. Shock them when the walls start talking. Big Hanbin reveal, he tells them that they'll get benefits by rank, show all the girls shocked and wondering what he's talking about. Then he invites them to go explore New Island, and they discover the ranked beds and the new layout. This way, our emotions match the girls, meaning we experience the show instead of just watching it. Anyways, the ranking from the tests will all be 50% producers, 50% live audience. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I quite like this strategy. The 100% audience ranks works when you have a huge number of contestants like produce and the audience to back it up. This show is finally at the point where all the contestants have at least some fan base, but there are still girls who are head and shoulders above the rest in terms of fandom. So when you know that at least 3 contestants will always get a high score no matter how they actually do, you can, in theory, balance it out by having objective judges. But this also guarantees that the girls who are safe will be the popular ones and the ones who did the best. Let me give an example. Say we have Jimin, the contestant with the largest fanbase by a stretch, and Juwon, the one with the smallest core fanbase, at least in Korea. If we have a performance where Jimin has multiple voice cracks, she's offbeat, stumbles on stage, doesn't even fully execute the moves and lip syncs, all just examples, there's still a good chance she'd get over 150 in the live audience vote. Then we have Juwon. She executes everything flawlessly, perfect vocals, dance, stage presence. There's still a good chance she might only get 150 in the live audience. So then the judges come in and they give Jimin a score of 55 and Juwon a score of 98. Insert random values for the rest of the girls. Jimin's score for the performance is a total of 205, Juwon's is 248. And for the sake of argument, let's say that means Juwon is rank 2 and Jimin is rank 6 overall. They're both within the final lineup, but one got in on her strong performance and the other on her strong fan base. Now I want to reiterate, this is just an example using two trainees with very differing fan base strengths and not reflective of my personal opinion on the girls. The only problem I see here is that the mentors have been very biased in part 1 and that does not bode well for part 2. On to the Black Made test. Rather than songs produced by the Black label producers, these are going to be remixes from the producers. Now, immediate horror after realizing these are the same people who ruined the arrangement for Fine. The teams are also predetermined and they picked the leaders. Oh, they also emphasize that part 2 will be an individual competition and not a team one. Immediately there's a part of my brain that lights up at hearing that because we all know that being individually graded does not make this an individual competition. This is a show to create a permanent 7-year group. To ignore group dynamics in that consideration is a recipe for failure. This is bait. As the people guessed, in Lovesick Girls we get Sebi, Jungkook, Coco, and Yuju with Sebi as the assigned leader. In La Vie en Rose, we have Sarang, Fuko, Gyuri, and Jimin as the leader. Finally, in I Am the Best are Mai, Jiyoon, Sujong, and Juwon with Jiyoon as the leader. Now, a few things stand out immediately. The mentor's intentions are pretty obvious in some cases. With Jiyoon, they obviously want to see if she's going to crash and burn like she didn't like Ua, or if she'll step up to the plate. With La Vie en Rose, it feels like a continuation of the last test for Jimin to see if she'll push herself forward. Then in Lovesick Girls, I wasn't sure what the strategy was, but I think it becomes clear in their background. Otherwise, there are some obvious picks, and there are some that are obviously being tested. I Am the Best is mostly very obvious picks, and Mai, who the mentors clearly want to push out of her comfort zone. Jimin is the odd one out in La Vie en Rose, having gravitated towards cool and girl crush. Lovesick Girls somehow has all members you could expect, except maybe Sebi, but that's more like you would expect to see her in La Vie en Rose and not that she doesn't suit Lovesick Girls. As mentioned, the 3 songs are remixed, and I am of the very humble opinion that 24 needs to be stopped before he gets his hands on another track. Who the hell listens to Lovesick Girls and thinks, you know what this needs? A house remix. Like, way to completely misunderstand what makes the song so great in the first place and what kind of remix would elevate the melody. I have always been a strong believer in the Lovesick Girls rock remix. It already has a lot of elements of it, but I truly feel rock is the only genre that can elevate the emotions in the song. But sure, a house remix. For La Vie en Rose, they choose easy listening. Again, completely missing the mark on what makes the song so great. This should have been a house remix. It would have worked really well, and you know why I know it wouldn't have mattered that the song already shares elements with house? Because the I Am the Best remix is just a 2024 remix that slightly messes with the verses but keeps the core sound and vibe of the song. But the one thing this mission did help is with what to expect from the final group. We can expect to hear house, easy listening, and an electropop genre mix. And probably powerful and anthemic sounds like Blackpink and IZ*ONE are known for. In La Vie en Rose, the team is split in half, with both Gyuri and Fuko wanting the main vocal and Jimin and Sarang wanting the center. When they decide to start working on the parts individually, the show reveals that the mentors are actually inside the Island building in a hidden room watching them on a live feed. It is definitely not a live feed because, I mean, come on, they would have to have concurrent live feeds of 3 rooms and be able to focus on all of them. No. Mnet gave them a rough edit of highlights for each team and picked the reactions and storylines they wanted to focus on from the reactions. But it is interesting that the mentors will now get a behind-the-scenes look at the teams, especially since this is aiming to create a permanent group, so you have to also look at the chemistry within the group. Anyways, Fuko and Gyuri sound so good together. I'm gonna risk getting this video copyright striked so you guys can hear this. We need this in the final lineup, guys. But this team is definitely the Jimin show. She gets a lot of focus in this background. Fuko wins the main vocal because Gyuri was slightly out of range, however, ever the considerate one. Fuko asks if Gyuri wants a chance to go out for the center now that she didn't get main vocal, which she accepts. Fuko did not take the bait. The 3 candidates do a vocal and dance audition. In my opinion, Sarang won the vocals with Gyuri in second, which I personally chalk up to her not getting to practice as much, and Jimin just couldn't reach the notes, so she gets last. In the dance, we hit a slight rough patch. I think Gyuri embodied the new vibe of the remix, Jimin suited the original version, and Sarang hit some kind of middle ground between them. All in all, I think Sarang had the best audition, but after Fuko determines it's between her and Jimin, Gyuri joins her in the deliberation and they decide to give Jimin the center, noting her possibility to improve vocally. Sarang gets to take the main dancer position, and Gyuri amicably settles on part 4. Gyuri did not take the bait. Speaking of which, am I the only person who doesn't get how a 4-member team has 3 main parts and then the extra? You could have just as well made 4 teams of 3, or better yet, add a main rapper position. All of the songs already have rap parts, but Lovesick Girls was basically the only one that kept theirs. Maybe I should make a line distribution edit for the main rapper version. What a waste of skills. Expensive skills. Because now we move to Lovesick Girls and we can finally talk about how messy the plans for that team turned out. As mentioned, Sebi is the leader, but immediately it's clear that Jungin is unintentionally taking over that role. She wants to be the main vocal and she gets that with no argument. Sebi wants to be the center and she gets that part as well, but Yuju and Coco both want the main dancer, but for different reasons. Coco wants it because her specialty is dancing, Yuju wants it for the rap part. In the auditions, Yuju definitely had the better flow, but that just gives me some flashbacks to Whistle because Coco has already shown herself to be a competent rapper when she gets a chance to practice, just like Yui. Speaking of which, when they do the dance part of the audition, Coco's attitude sold the part by miles. Yuju came off as very reserved and pulled back, just like in Whistle. But as Jungin and Sebi discuss the decision, they take opposing factions. Jungin wants Yuju because she thinks the rap is more important than the dance, but girl, this is the main dancer position. For a show that's so obsessed with dance performances, they sure don't understand what the main dancer position even is. Sebi campaigns for Coco as a dancer. Eventually, Jungin pretty much strong-arms Sebi into agreeing with her and making Yuju the main dancer. Throughout the Lovesick Girls edit, we see Jungin take over the leader role during the practice to the point Sebi becomes more of a scribe than a leader by the end. It's disappointing because even if you think there's a better way to do something, Sebi was clearly unsure about herself as a leader and just needed some time to overcome those nerves. Jungin just immediately cutting in and taking over left a bad taste in my mouth. I understand they're all under a lot of pressure and making sure practice goes smoothly is very important, but there are better ways to approach it. As an example, remember way back when in the Signal song when Jungin was really unsure as a leader and Fuko helped guide her to conflict resolution and more? It's just disappointing that she was given that grace on her first go around, but she couldn't extend that to Sebi. I do think the edit was probably exaggerated to some extent, but based on the reactions and what we were shown, I'm letting myself be disappointed in the attitude displayed. At the end of the day, my position tends to be that unless there's reactions from the confessionals being inserted, there's not that much manipulation of the situation going on, but it could still be exaggerated. Jungin may have taken the bait. That brings us to I Am the Best, where the distribution is also fairly smooth. Jiyoon wants the center and gets it with no argument, Jiwon wants the main dancer, Sujong wants the main vocal, while Mai doesn't seem to really prefer one part over the other, she's just not confident in pulling off part 4 due to her nasality. Jiyoon goes for the harsh truth and says that's going to be a problem no matter what parts she takes on, but then also goes on to show her that she can pull off the part and it's within her range. It's just that the original has a higher pitched voice than Mai's. They also got the worst practice room because it used to be the island item room, so it's at a weird angle, and that was clearly a part of Jiyoon's test because the mentors are impressed when she knocks out a solution with no complaint. Immediately from the practice, it's clear that Sujong's voice is very similar to CL's. The mentors question what the point in making a 2024 version of the song is if she's going to imitate the original. But Jiyoon's leader arc really comes full circle as she forgoes sleep to work on everyone's individual parts alone. Jiyoon did not fall for the bait. Before the interim, they're all given self-evaluation cards where each contestant picks the best and worst member of the other 2 teams. Another piece of bait. This leads them to an interim between just the girls. They start with I Am the Best, and all the trainee shots compliment Sujong on her tone. For Livy and Rose, Jimin defaults to falsetto repeatedly. In Lovesick Girls, they cut to Jiyoon every time Jungin does something. Sarang calls out their main dancer while Jiyoon says the main vocal needs to improve because it's not expressive enough. The trainees vote Coco the worst in Lovesick Girls, saying she's not very noticeable. Jimin gets voted the worst in Livy and Rose with no context. Instead of revealing best or worst for I'm the Best, we just get a background on why Jiyoon and Jungin are like that. As it turns out, Jiyoon told Fuko during a late-night hangout that the reason she's so cold towards Jungin is because she feels Jungin completely betrayed her trust after believing they were close friends. I can empathize with that. I am also a person whose trust is hard to earn back after breaking it. In particular, it seems they got really close during the first entrance test prep with drama, and Jiyoon felt incredibly hurt that someone she considered a friend didn't even vote for her to stay in Island. She figured that out because the bottom 3 each received only 2 votes as far as I remember, and Jiyoon voted for herself, and she probably knew who the other vote was, and it wasn't Jungin. All this to say, I get her, I support her. This, combined with the Lovesick Girls edit, makes me question having Jungin in my top 6. I won't drop her for now, but like I said earlier, dynamics matter a lot when creating a permanent group. That takes us to the interim with the mentors, where Taeyang shows up for the first time. We start with Livy and Rose, and this time Jimin isn't as reliant on falsetto, but she still falls back on it for her pre-chorus high note. Taeyang points out her lack of confidence, while Lee Jung says when she lacks confidence in singing, it translates to her dancing. She also points out that if she just keeps practicing but doesn't change anything, she can't improve. This is probably a good reason why Mnet gave them access to their preparation. Me, personally, I can't hear a lot of support coming from her stomach, so I think that's her big problem here. Their pre-performance background mostly focuses on Jimin struggling to figure out how to hit the note and Sarang stepping up to help her. For the performance itself, it's a lot better than the interim suggested. Jimin manages to hit the note, and she's finally showcasing that center potential she was hyped up for during the entirety of part 1. Rewatching it, I do notice that she's coming off a lot more reserved, which I am going to blame on the remix. But, I don't know if you guys noticed, she hit the note because she took another breath, which helped her push it out. It's not because she improved her technique. Which is disappointing, but it's not like the show has vocal coaches, so they have to rely on each other, and she did have Sarang to show her how to engage her stomach more, so I guess that's what disappoints me. She had someone show her a better technique, but in the performance she fell back on a crutch. On the other hand, Sarang goes off key, which is disappointing, but due to seeing her hitting it so many times in the background, I'm inclined towards noticing that she struggled to find that support in this performance as well, which is something that can happen to any singer. I think I've heard some vocal coaches refer to it as pulling up too much weight. The mentors even point out that she does sing it, she just does it very softly, so it could have been worse. Fuko, at least to me, blended into the performance a little bit, but her vocals were on point at every turn, very strong and really reminiscent of Eunbi herself. Even if her stage presence didn't push her ahead this time, her vocals did, and I think that's a really important quality in a main vocal. Similarly, Gyuri mostly handled the ad-lib sections, and I didn't really notice her getting any proper lines. I could be wrong, but she did a great job of standing out with her ad-libs. Her stage presence was at a 10, and her and Fuko are definitely battling it out for the best vocals on the stage, even though she didn't get as many show-off moments as Fuko. The audience score has Jimin predictably coming in first with 207 out of, was it 223 possible? The audience can vote for all the contestants if they want to, so this shows Jimin has the support of the large majority of the audience. After her is Fuko with 191, and then Sarang and Gyuri are 1 point apart with a respective 174 and 173 points. These are all really high scores, and I think it can be argued that this team has the highest average popularity in Korea. Moving on to I Am the Best, we have probably the most controversial team of the episode. Mai struggles with her nasality, and that's the biggest comment she gets from the mentors. She spends her break time practicing alone to overcome it, and we cut to a gathering of the girls in one of the bedrooms. There we see them discussing the merits of helping their teammates now that this is an individual competition, and the most damning comments come from Sujung. There's definitely some splicing together of moments separated by time, but in essence, it shows Sujung talking about the problems with Mai's technique and her telling the girls why should I when asked why she doesn't just tell Mai that. It's really shady and not a good look at all, and makes me personally question having her in my lineup. Ambition is one thing, but there's definitely nothing right about talking about a fellow contestant like that, especially a team member, and so flippantly with non-team members. And no matter your opinion on if this is a pure evil edit, we do have someone in the room reacting negatively to her words and leaving the room, and she's later shown directly helping Mai improve her technique. That someone is Jiyoon. The way the editing is set up, we're supposed to connect the bedroom scene to being concurrent with Mai practicing alone, but they might be separated by hours or even days, we can't know. All we can know is what the editors show us. Sujung fell for the bait. No matter if this is a pure evil edit or not, I think it is very normal to question her place in your lineup, especially since A, there's very little reason to believe Mai even knew about those comments prior to the episode airing, and B, there's a very small chance they will air a reconciliation between them. I'm questioning her place in my lineup, and unless we get to see this resolved, I'm removing her from it indefinitely. That sounds so dramatic, but like I said, the intergroup dynamics matter, and if this is going to remain unsolved, I just don't have a place for her in my lineup. But we move back to the interim where 24 tells Sujung that he understands why the other contestants would give her 8 best votes, but he finds her closeness to CL to be a problem. Taeyong also adds that it feels more like an imitation than a representation of herself. I can understand both sides, but I am inclined to agree more with the mentors because I'm reminded of Soyeon performing Crazy on Produce 101. It would have been really easy for her to just be a mini Hyuna, especially since their tones are similar, but she made that performance her own. She was Soyeon, not a mini Hyuna, and I think that's what they wanted from Soojung. They even emphasized it, asking her if she thinks she can do it better than the original. When they got on stage, I felt My improved a lot, but it also felt really lacking in impact compared to the previous stage. It just felt like nothing ever really happened. The energy is very similar throughout, and this one is a camera work issue at the main impact part, which I think classifies as the bridge in this performance. We go for an overhead shot, which completely undercuts it. But this performance also had a huge issue with the line distribution not matching the parts. The parts do feel more equal as compared to Livy and Rose, but in my opinion, they called the center a main vocal and the main vocal a center. How is it that the center does not get the opening, one of the most impactful parts? Overall, this just isn't the most challenging song because they got rid of one of the most challenging parts, which is the rap. There's no high notes, the choreo is simple, there's no real wow moment in it. This is supposed to be a song that's sold on stage presence and there just wasn't enough of that going around. Soojung did fine enough, she sounded more like herself, but I can't help but feel like she wasn't selling it as much as she should have. It's kind of an impossible task to tell a trainee to live up to the CL, but I don't know, I just wasn't convinced. This is one of Jiyoon's best dance performances and she really used her center moments to her advantage, but she was upstaged by Jiwon in a few places. Overall, I think she did showcase that effortlessly cool vibe the song is meant to have, and she was definitely my favorite part of the song, but I'm also biased, and overall, she was giving more main vocal because her voice overpowered her stage presence. That being said, their decision to have the main vocal part be CL's parts when that should have been the center, and the center largely handling Bomb's parts when that should have been the main vocal might be an explanation. Jiwon sold the performance, and I loved seeing her theatricality on stage, but she was the only contestant to skip a part. A small part, but she still skipped it, and that does detract from her overall performance. Mai did better than expected. Her nasality was less prominent where it would have stuck out, but it's not completely gone and it just stuck out in other parts instead, but her performance was overall better. The live audience feedback does follow expectations. Jiyoon manages an impressive 193, reflecting her high perceived popularity in Korea. Following her is Mai with 158 points, Soojung not too far behind with 153, and trailing in last is Jiwon with 131. Definitely lower scores than the tone set by Livy and Rose, with a 62-point difference between first and fourth. In Lovesick Girls, we get our first and only part switch suggestion. The mentors want to set Coco up with a rap, and Lee Jung suggests that she should get Sebi's rap part, while the mentors also question Yuju, saying there was just something off. They show a one-on-one practice with Monica and Lee Jung where Yuju gets a lot of criticism. They say she doesn't exude enough confidence, her rap is too quiet for them to even hear it properly, and she doesn't complete the movements. All very damning feedback. I was considering bumping her up to my top 6 now that Soojung is out, but seeing all this criticism laid out, it really does make me question that decision. I've never personally found her to be outstanding aside from the opening in Rain on Me, but I at least found her to be a dependable member, but Monica really... When she questioned how Yuju could be the main dancer when she's the only one who doesn't complete the moves, it just made me reevaluate that. I think she's a very talented girl, but this makes me think she's not ready to debut, and it gives her the vibe of someone using a survival show as a get debuted quick scheme rather than someone willing to work hard to improve and enhance their skills. Not saying she isn't a hard worker, but when people are leaning on clips of her at 14 to prove her skills instead of clips from the present, this episode really made me question a lot of contestants, and I get it's probably designed like that, but it's a really hard instinct to ignore. In other news from this team, Sebi takes the mentor's advice and gives Coco her rap part. Not her full center part, but just the rap part. She even helps her work on her English pronunciation, and this was her best decision as a leader. I think her instincts to give Coco the main dancer position to begin with were correct, and I'm glad she listened to the feedback even if it meant reducing her own part a bit. In the performance, there are standouts and there are those who fall behind. I thought I had just missed it in the other two, but no, Lovesick Girls did get a much bigger intro than either of the other two, with Sebi acting as a main character. However, it is very clear that Sebi has never shot a rifle before, because neither have I, but I at least know the butt of the gun is supposed to be on the shoulder, not the upper arm/chest. This seems like a mistake that should have been fixed with one quick note from the producers. Both Coco and Sebi seem to be in their element on stage. I still think Sebi is a bit one note as a center, but I think it worked more in this stage than previous ones. Coco getting that rap part was the best thing that could have happened for this performance. Based on the interim, Sebi and Yuju had a pretty similar vibe, with Sebi maybe edging her out a little bit on the merit of her stage charisma, but Coco made the part explosive, just with her level of charisma on stage. However, one thing of note is Coco inserting a me, which throws the syllables off in the final line of Jenny's rap. It's, "No doctor could help when I'm lovesick, not no doctor could help me when I'm lovesick." She pulled it off, but you could hear her stumble over that a little bit. Yuju had some mic feed issues during her rap section. You can still hear her, just really low, similarly to Sarang earlier, but you can actually hear her pushing the syllables out, and her breath control issues are also noticeable. But the feed is seemingly fixed for her after that initial section, kind of like what happened to Ji-yoon during her first verse. Apparently Yuju and Coco both had issues with the mic on stage, but they only managed to fix it for Coco in the airing. I wonder if it's to play into the narrative from the behind that her rap was too quiet. Although I am pretty sure we were hearing more Jungin during her chorus than Yuju, which is weird. I'm inclined to believe that it is somewhat fixed after the first line or two, but Yuju tends to rap from like really far back, which causes projection issues, so it could also be that. However, I seem to have fallen into the trap of forgetting that Yuju's part is the main dancer, because the part really did not have a single standout choreo moment for her to do, or at least none that felt like they stood out. Sebi also was very shouty during her vocal lines, which I was not a fan of personally. Overall, I would have to rank Livy and Rose first, this performance second, and I am the best third, but none of them really wowed me start to finish. The score distribution has caused some controversy. Sebi and Coco were 1 point off from each other, again with a respective 197 and 196. Yuju then follows with a 176, but Jungin receives the second lowest score from the audience, a whopping 145 points. That's still above the 50% mark, but definitely far lower than she would have scored had international audience scores also factored in. It seems that the domestic reception to her does lean more negative than the international. There's also always a chance that Sebi fans refuse to vote for her if a little bit of the behind was shown to the crowd. The audience points are then converted to a point scale out of 100, with the points decreasing by 2 for every place down. So the rank before the judges' scores are added are Jimin in first with 100 points, Sebi in second with 98, Coco 96, Jiyoon 94, Fuko 92, Yuju 90, Sarang 88, Gyuri 86, Mai 84, Sujung 82, Jungin 80, and Jiwon 78. They start by revealing some feedback for I'm the Best. Jiyoon finally showed the mentors what they had been waiting for. Mai was a little disappointing as they were hoping the song would showcase a new side to her vocals, and Sujung didn't show an improvement from the interim and didn't feel authentic. Jiwon's commentary wasn't aired. Jiyoon's score of 90 moves her up to first place with a total of 184 points. Sujung follows with 82 for a total of 164. Jiwon gets a score of 79 with a total of 157, and Mai pulls ahead of her despite getting a lower score of 75 for a total of 159. In Livy and Rose, Jimin finally shows the mentors what they had been waiting for her to show throughout part 1, and Sarang's performance was a bit regretful with her not carrying the energy through to the end, which is something I have said about her before. Fuko and Gyuri's comments are not aired. Jimin gets an impressive 95, moving back to rank number 1 with a score of 195. Shockingly, Gyuri follows her in second with 86 points and a total of 172 points, meaning Fuko's score of 85 bumps her down with a total of 177 points. Sarang receives an 81, and her final score of 169 just barely keeps her in the top 6 for now. In Lovesick Girls, they say Sebi embodied the concept as soon as she stepped on stage for her extended intro. Coco showed off her combined strengths and gave a strong performance, no matter how short. Yuju was disappointing with a lot of parts, but she didn't really stand out. Jungin's commentary was not aired. They also don't reveal their judges' scores in this episode, but they showed Jiyoon dropping to 4th place overall, meaning 2 of them are in the top 3. This has to be Coco and Sebi. Jungin doesn't have enough points from the audience to knock Jiyoon down, and based on the feedback, Yuju probably didn't get a high enough mentor score for that either. For Coco to knock Jimin out of first, she needed a perfect 100 score, which seems unlikely. Sebi could do it with an impressive 98 score, which also seems unlikely, but not unattainable. Most likely, they're in second and third. Before the episode ends, they show us the interim voting ranks. In 12th is Jiwon, 11th is Gyuri, Mai in 10th, Sebi in 7th, surprisingly low, Sarang in 6th, and Coco in 5th. They also show us the preview of the next mission, which is another position battle, this time in position units. They revealed the vocal unit will be comprised of Jungin and Jiyoon, and rumors say they resolved their conflict. Other rumors state the rap unit will be Yuju and Coco, the dance unit will be Jimin, Jiwon, Sujung, Mai, and Sebi, and the all-rounders unit will be Sarang, Gyuri, and Fuko. There's a lot of crying in the preview. I've pretty much said all of my thoughts in relevant places, but I think Coco will replace Sujung for now, bumping out one great dancer for another. One thing that does bring me peace of mind is that the vote is just a safe vote, not an elimination. So Gyuri being 11th right now, which can easily change by the time eliminations roll around, doesn't necessarily put her at risk of elimination, it just doesn't save her from it. However, I will still encourage everyone to give her a vote or two, especially if you feel turned away by any behavior displayed in this episode. She is a girl's girl and has been nothing but supportive and takes everything in stride. And she is also talented as hell to boot. I really hope part 2 starts to finally showcase these great qualities of hers. And if you are a Jiyoon or Fuko fan, those three are clearly very close, especially with how they were front and center to welcome Cutie back into Island after the elimination. However, I think it is very clear this group is not meant to have a rap focus and will probably just have one rapper at best. They're clearly setting up a showdown between Coco and Yuju for that position. None of the missions have had a real rap focus, and they only seem to include the raps for Blackpink songs. There's no rap in Final Love Song, IWALY, or the Livy and Rose and I Am the Best remixes.